Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Zaffa's Travels video, story time, if you will. Now, I'm in a little bit of a play park close to my house, so we didn't have a driving section today. And this is part of like Zaffa's stories, as a matter of fact. Part of the story thing that I'm going to do. It's going to happen randomly whenever I have time or whenever I feel like it. Stories will pop up. I hope you guys appreciate it. I know this is not generally the content people are here for, but I feel like a little bit of backstory would come in handy. Now, this is the park where I spent most of my primary school years. Okay? Where I spent most of my primary school years. And how schooling works in South Africa, you've got your primary school, grades 1 to 7, and then you've got your high school, grade 8 to 12, or grade 12 is known as matric here in South Africa. But grade 8 to 12, and then you've got your universities or technicons or technical colleges and whatnot. And believe it or not, where I'm standing now in this little park here, as you can see, where I'm standing, less than 80 years ago, this entire area was just veld, as they call it in South Africa. It was just veld. No development. That part of the neighbourhood, Fichardtpark, was developed first and then it spread out this way, believe it or not. And the reason I know this is that a couple of years ago, a friend of mine came and visited me, and he stayed over at a guest house, and I started talking to the owner. I don't know if they still live there, this owner of the guest house. I don't know if they still live there, but he told me when they moved in to Fichardtpark, into that same house, just down the street that way, when they moved into that house, all of this was veld. So we're standing on property that's less, or development that's less than 80 years old. The guy was slightly older. Oh, that's the school, by the way, that I used to go to. I'm trying to stay a little bit further away from it. So that we don't catch any kids' faces and whatnot. But that used to be the school I went to, along with my friends, which is essentially how this story is, what this story is mostly going to be about. Me growing up in this part of Bloemfontein, and of course, no playground. We call it a park, but it's essentially a playground, sort of. And no playground / parky is complete without the skin-tearing, pants-tearing metal slide. The only thing that changed about this slide are the colors. And I mean, it's not even winter yet. Okay, it's not that hot. We've got this slide. And then we've got the sort of manual merry-go-round thing that I was on earlier. It's only the colors that changed. And what also changed is, in this general area, would be probably the movement, the placement of the equipment, if you will, the playground activities. I'm just going to go through the playground as I remember it. Remember, okay, when I was here, this felt a lot bigger. Okay? Mainly because I was younger. Mainly because I was younger. I do believe, I don't know what we call this. We call this the inertia machine or something. I don't know. This little thing. I do believe this was here. I can't really remember, but I do believe that this was here. I'm not going to get on it because then I might feel a little bit queasy. Yeah, I'm one of those bastards. I'm one of those bastards. And then we've got the Hexahut, or the witch's hat. That's what we used to call it. I don't know what you would call it in English or what its actual name is, but this is what we would call the Hexahut. And one of my old band members, when I used to be in a band, used to live down in this street. But let's move on to the Hexahut. Okay, it's this thing over here. I don't know what you call that in America, but it's a thing. You stand on there and you just swing around it. And one of my elementary school friends used to live in that house over there. And his father started in my estate, believe it or not. So, yeah. And then we've got basically open plains. If I remember correctly, back in the day of Pokemon Go, there was a gym location somewhere in this area. Now, right ahead of you, you'll see the post office. Yes, we still have those in South Africa. That's where I used to go when I was in high school. That's where I used to go late afternoon, early evening to grab a smoke. I didn't want my parents to smell me, so I would walk up to here, sit on the stairs. They've changed the stairs. There's no more stairs on this side. But sit on the stairs in that area, light up a cigarette, have a cigarette or two, drink a tiny bottle of Coke, and then head back home. Also, one thing, these trees weren't here when I was a kid. Let me show you. These trees were, they were here, but they were very, very small. These trees all around here, they were about that size. Maybe even slightly smaller than that. They were about that size, okay? Some of my friends and I used to get his golf clubs and just hit balls across the parkie or playground, if you will. But there were no trees, okay? And then you've got your normal swing sets. Now it's interesting to see how paths have been made here. People crossing the park. And there's a path from there straight through to that corner. So it's like a sort of a diagonal path, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, this playground is where I had a lot of my early childhood memories and some of my early adult memories. Don't worry, they are semi-PG, but I've got to get to the one thing before I start talking about the history of Zaffa, of me, Zaffa's stories or whatever. And then you've got your, oh crap, I forgot the name in English. You got your Viplunk. You got this thing. I think they might have changed out the tires at some point, and I do believe it was at the same spot. And then through these here trees, which is not really through these trees, but there's the swings. I do believe, and anybody who's been around in this area when they were younger, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe the swings did not look like this. Okay? I do believe the swings did not look like this. Now, the big thing is, where I'm going now, and this is before the trees were even here. Over on this side was I believe you call it the horse, the perkie, as we used to call it. Again, I'm just referencing the names I had for it when I was a kid. And now, this is the horse. I don't know tell me what you call these things in America. That would be freaking amazing. Tell me what you call these things in America. They've got some springs here. You can sit on this. You can bounce around a bit. And people can sit in here and play. But this is what we used to call the horse. Let's start off. Now, it was just slightly over yonder. And then you've got your jungle gyms. I believe they were provided. Your jungle gyms over there. And right next to my car. I believe they were provided by McDonald's. I think that's why... Oh, balls. I think that's why we've got the McDonald's colors here. To be perfectly honest, we've got the McDonald's colors here. Now that I look at it, I'm like, oh crap. These are McDonald's colors. This used to be blue, completely blue, all right? So, yeah, I spent most of my time over at that school. We got here when I was at the end of grade 2 in August. And that's why August month, and I do believe it's August right now, that's why it's got a little bit of a special place in my heart, because that's when we moved here back in, oh crap, I can't even remember, but back in the day, let's call it that. And I remember we came here during August, and I had a month that I didn't go to school. And then I went to school there at the end of grade 2. And I finished my primary school days, end of grade 7, there as well. And then I moved on to a different school, different high school, which we'll eventually get to if I get permission to film there, because I'd like to travel those areas with you. You know, travel down those hallways, tell different stories, favorite spots, and see how much has changed, okay? Now, one thing you might notice is there's a lot of high fences here. Concrete fences, iron fences, corrugated iron fences, whatever, around here. It never used to be like this. As things got more dangerous in South Africa, people started building walls. And it helps a bit. It helps a bit. What I'm doing here, I would say is like on a scale of 1 to 10, when we talk about 0 being completely safe and 10 being, what the hell am I doing here? I don't have any bodyguards. I'd say this is about a 3 or a 4. Okay? I'm constantly looking around and trying to find out if there's anyone approaching me and whatever. That is your general South Africanism when you walk around anywhere. If you're alone, you constantly look around. And I mean, this is a reasonably safe neighborhood. Okay, this is really a reasonably safe neighborhood. It's just the way we've been raised during our later formative years That's what we do. So, let's fast forward a bit in history to when I was in my early 20s. And then we'll go back into history again. So, this little horse thing was over there, roughly where that tree was at. Maybe a bit closer, but it was somewhere in that spot. Man, when I used to work at a bar, some of my friends would just pitch up at my house, and this was still illegal back in the day. Not anymore, but we would come here, sit on this horse, and during, like, it would be 9, 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, and we'd be sitting on that horse, smoking some illegal herbage at the time, getting some herbs in our system, and we would just sit on that horse, look at the sky, and talk about random stuff. I remember I got in so much trouble with my girl at that time because the friends that I was hanging out with, she's like, oh, you like one of them? And I'm like, no, they're friends. But anyway, I think that was probably almost the last times that I partook in the devil's lettuce. Okay? And the memories are flooding back. Holy crap. Memories are flooding back. I miss that. It's good to have memories in this place, in a place like this. I mean, generations will pass, but you've been at a place, you've been there, you know. This might eventually get turned into another neighborhood block. Who knows? But that's the more adult memory that I have. And then we're going to go back to the rondom tali thing. The manual merry-go-round, I guess, is what it's called. And I do remember, okay, as a kid, I do remember that this merry-go-round, here's the merry-go-round, I'm standing next to it right now. This merry-go-round was closer to this area. Okay, so if you look at it this way, was closer to the street. In fact, I think it was even closer to the street. And then at some point, people were concerned for children's safety. And cars crossing this park. So they installed these poles. But I'm pretty sure the merry-go-round was somewhere in this area, closer to the corner of the street. Now, speaking of the street, so me and my friends, we were three friends in this group. Me and two other guys. We used to get on our bicycles, and ride everywhere in this area. We would drive up that street way down there. We would drive up that street. We would cross Bernardi Drive. We would drive down here because my friend's house was on the other side there, like on the other side of that centrum, of that shopping center. Then we had the other friend's house, which was over here, and my house, which was just over yonder. And we would drive around on bicycles, man. We would drive around on our bicycles, ride around on our bicycles. And we'd go to the one shop and get some candy and snacks down there. It was, And this was a thing. On Saturdays, 8, 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning, if it was that late, we'd meet up and we'd spend the entire Saturday just driving around. Maybe we'd go home for lunch or to someone's house for lunch, but then after that we'd be driving around. And if you didn't want to go to someone's house for lunch, we'd just buy some snacks. Now this street, man, in primary school, two, and this is a little bit personal, luckily I won't mention any names, but was it two? I wish my friend would see this, he'd correct me. But two of the hottest girls in school would live down that street. Man, and we'd be driving around, and all three of us, believe it or not, all three of us would make excuses to drive down that street. We'd go around, and all of a sudden it's like, oh no, we've not been there in a while. And meantime, it would be like 5 minutes, and we'd go down there again. We never caused any innocent trouble, as a matter of fact. In fact, we tried to fix some stuff. At some point, there was a lot of graffiti being sprayed everywhere, and we took it upon ourselves to start washing the graffiti off. And then I remember at one point we tried washing cars, but that failed. Well, that didn't fail, we were just kids. We didn't really worry about it. We washed a couple of cars. Every now and again we'd wash some cars, and then we're like, oh, okay, cool, we've got enough money for today. We don't have to worry about next week. Next week is next week's problem. What I remember from my primary school days, at some point, as is the way of things, the three of us had our last bike ride together. That's the bell, by the way. The three of us had our last bike ride together. I think it was in grade 5, might have been grade 6. But we had our last bike ride together. We never thought that it would come. But that's one unfortunate truth of life. Then I started making new friends. I started making new friends. These were the more geekier side of friends. Gamers back in the day. And I'm talking, this is Monkey Island 2 era. We would pirate the ever-living shit out of games. Use what we call floppy disks. Or, at that point, stiffies. Yeah, we called them that. Stiffies was the, big invention. The big next step. A whole 1.44 meg of space. But we started off with the floppy disks. You know, those big, black, bendable floppy disks. And we'd pirate. One guy would have Monkey Island 2 somehow. And we would get it all from him, play that. And then, what other games are Dune? Dune 2 was also on the list. Doom was also there. Colonization, Civilization, you know, those older games. That were SimCity 1. Man, those were the days. And that was essentially, I'm trying to think if there's any other stories that I can tell about the primary school days that stand out. I mean, the older you get, the more you forget, I guess. Or the more difficult it is to remember. My school years on the primary school wasn't remarkable. And that's probably something you'll probably hear in my high school years as well. Not really remarkable, nothing stand out. I remember, one standout thing, I had my first cigarette. I started smoking like middle of grade 7. But at that time it was just puffing, you know. You didn't really smoke, you just puffed it to look cool. So I technically had my first cigarette in grade 7, but I probably started smoking closer to the end of grade 7. Yeah, middle grade 7, had my puffs. Closer to the end of grade 7, grade 8, I had my first real drag of a cigarette somewhere. That is, I guess, memorable or mentionable. I'm trying to think who were my big crushes or any of those stories. I got into a couple of fights, as we all do. Won most of them, except against the one guy was very, very well versed in karate. He gave me 2 punches and I was out. But I've won most of my fights, as far as I remember. I also met... How can this not be memorable? Damn it. How can this not be memorable? I met most of the friends that would last me the rest of my life up until now. I've met here. My one friend that, man, this guy works for Amazon now, and I fucking miss him. But we've remained friends. And this is now the nerdy group, the geeky, nerdy group, if you will. And another friend, his friend, became my close friend in high school. It's because of the Amazon friend that I chose the high school that I went to. In other tellings of the story, it just so happens to be also a school. My father used to be an inspector of schools, and it also just happens to be a school that my father did not have jurisdiction over. Also just happened to be. But the problem is my father knew everyone at that school. Or almost everyone. And that one friend, he just basically, we finished writing our grade 7 exam. And I was hanging out with him. This was in December of that year. I was hanging out with him at his house. It was just down the street over there. And I was like, okay, cool. So what school are you going to go to? At that stage, you still had chance to decide what school you wanted to go to pretty damn late in the year. And this is the friend now who's moved, who's living in Seattle. I think it was December. It might have been early. It was definitely early December, I think. And he said, well, if I was still living here next year, I would have chosen Jim Fuchsia High. And I looked at him and I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, we're moving to Cape Town. Beginning of next year, we're moving to Cape Town. I'm like, what? What the hell? You know, quite a big shock to my system. And then me and him and I, we kept contact over the years during high school and all of that. Kept contact after high school. Obviously a lot less contact now. But yeah, that's why I chose, he was the reason I chose JF. And then, that's a story. I'm going to tell this story a little bit. It's going to add to the next Zaffa story videos, if you will. And then at that school, at JF, the high school, the secondary school, if you will, I saw that the one friend from that geeky group also went there. I'm like, I know you. This is my connection. Now, granted, 90% of the kids in school I don't remember half of them. I'll remember their faces, but I don't remember half of them. And he was sort of my, cool, he's here, everything's going to be okay. That one friend. He's here, everything's going to be okay. If I have shit, I go talk to him, you know, whatever. Never got down to that. Never got down to that. But that was from grade 7 to grade 8. And another friend of that geek group, we remained friends. We probably stopped speaking for about 2 years during high school, but we continued to be friends to this very day, keeping more regular contact than anything else. And now they've moved to a small town somewhere in the northern, in the Gauteng province, I believe. And the other one of the friend group also moved to the Strand in Cape Town, and we basically lost contact. Yeah, those were my core memories of the school. Bit of fighting. Also, corporal punishment was a thing. Yes, the teachers used to moer the ever-living shit out of us. I can swear now, it's way into the YouTube video. They used to moer the ever-living shit out of us. Because at that stage, you know, it's just a different time. Hell, it was freaking amazing. Looking back, I wouldn't change that for the world. That's the way I was raised, you know. What also happened is, I do believe the hoofmeisie, the head girl of the primary school, became our head girl in the high school as well. She's living somewhere in the UK. Let me tell you about the friends that I started off with, where they are at now, as far as I know. We've got the one friend who's working at the Afrikaans Language and Culture Organization, the one guy. The other guy is working at Emoya Estate. And I recently started making connections again, specifically with the guy at Emoya Estate, or try to at least. And that's a friendship I'd like to rekindle again, because it's just, life is short, man. Life is short. This video is going to do so crappy on YouTube. This is not what YouTube wants. Okay, let me tell you that. This is not what YouTube wants. So if you would like, comment and subscribe and all of that, it would be brilliant. If you've reached this part of the video, comment what's your favorite childhood memory. I can tell you mine. It was driving around on bikes on a Saturday morning, not having a care in the world, driving past those two beautiful girls' houses, hoping to catch a glimpse of them. Man, we were idiots. And the random snacks we would get at that one shop in that other corner. That's my, like, if I think this area, whenever I drive past this area, which is quite a lot, that's the memories that pops up. Even now, like if I drive down a different street, and it's a street we used to frequent as kids, I'd be like, wow. You know, memories come back. So I'd say that's my most treasured memory, or my favorite memory of growing up here. Now, I wanted to give you a bit of a backstory of this place, and the only thing that I can tell you is this used to be veld. You know, this area used to be veld. Like completely from that street onwards, that way. Used to be not developed. And maybe the next time when I'm actually at the school and I can film at the school, I'll be able to give you a bit more backstory there. But this is, even in our streets, I remember in our street where we lived, there used to be one house that showed like, listen, this is Fichardtpark. And then like this part over here wasn't even developed, right? This part over here wasn't even developed. So this is a reasonably young neighborhood, but I do believe the neighborhoods that way is even younger and all of that. So let's just quickly check out these signs. Public notice, this is an open public space and the following activities are not allowed in the park. Vehicles, loud music, liquor, littering, dumping, vandalism, playground, okay. Park is used at own risk, beautiful. And then we've got our public notice, adopt a park. This park is currently adopted by Fichardtpark Neighbourhood Association. This initiative forms part of the Metro's endeavour to partner with the community in ensuring a clean, green and healthy environment and to preserve our open spaces. Well, it could be greener, but it's winter. So hopefully during summertime, I can show you that this park is greener. Another thing I remember about this park, man, the amount of thorns in this park. And I still see it around me. I get flashbacks of thorns in this park. Specifically on the edges there. Specifically on the outer edges. Like in the middle of the park it wasn't as bad, but you had to get through that part first. And it was what we would call divilkies. I might have to Google what divilkies is in English, but man, those thorns were bad. It's those paper thorns, you know. Man, they were bad. Damn, that's also another thing I remember. But other than that, this area is where I spent most of my days when I grew up as a very young child, from grade 2 through to grade 7. And I do appreciate all of your support. I'm also going to tell you that I'm only going to do one video every 2 weeks. Due to logistics and all of that, the moment this picks up, I'll start doing a video every week. If it picks up even further, I'll do 2 videos every week. But once we do 2 videos every week, I've got people working with me. And yeah, thank you everybody for joining me on this small trip down memory lane, short trip down memory lane and my stories. It is dangerous to walk around in South Africa, specifically the other places where I want to tell the stories. So I'll see how I'll do that at some point. But for now, we've got like 2 or 3 places we can go to that's reasonably safe. And I can tell you stories about that. But yeah, thank you everybody for joining. Thank you again to the names shown up on the screen right now for your support in getting the car fixed and allowing me to film and drive around. Thank you everybody for joining. Again, I just want to see what the time is. Also, for those of you interested, it is currently now almost 12 o'clock in the afternoon, in the morning. It is getting hotter, and soon I'll be sweating more. But thank you everybody for joining and watching. Leave a comment. What's your favorite childhood memory? Like the video, share. YouTube has gone back to interactions on the video. They're not using AI to push out videos anymore. They've gone on down to interactions on the video. So if you want to help boost this video, like, share and subscribe, whatever. And until next time, y'all should have a good one.